Hi everyone, and back to another Let's Read. Like I said in the last one, Freezer Bird to read. I love so much, and I haven't read it in ages because it's been a while since it's been updated. The author has been busy. Life gets ahead of you. It's really annoying actually, when life gets ahead of you. But we all know that it's not over yet. It's far from over. But I love this fic so much. And it's If I Only Had a Heart, but by Luna the Dragon. And it is so good. It's actually what inspired my fanfiction Nichan because it involves Big Brother Aizawa, and I was like, Big Brother Aizawa, why did I not think of this? And suddenly I began writing Nichan, and I've kept up to date with it. And it was the main reason I wrote Nichan. So if the author watches this, I have informed them that I am recording and posting this. No idea if they'll watch it. That can't blame them if they don't. But yes, if they do watch, thank you so much. It was a huge inspiration for my own fic, and I am looking forward to read it out loud for you guys. I will apologize now because in the last recording, my dyslexia decided to say, "Hey, you know what? Let's not read out loud. You won't know what these words say." And yeah, I got a few words wrong. My mind is so messed up tonight. So let's get on to this anyway. Hang on. I'll read the summary first. Being born quirkless wasn't a curse. Midoriya Izuku refused to believe that, and he would show the world through astonishing intellect, bravery, and a heart that feels for all paths he crossed that this is true. Even when damaged, ridiculed, and put down, he will be strong. For all these things are a challenge from the very universe to become something great and change the foundation of society as he knows it. I've missed reading this so much. And obviously, chapter 1 is called The Beginning. So let's just get straight into this. I'm probably gonna geek out so much about this. Little Izuku, always so nice to see you here. A messy puff of green hair bobbed over towards the counter, the most blinding of grins just beneath. The young boy has a backpack. See, told you. The boy has a backpack too big for himself on his back, and his arms were full with an assortment of books that he struggles to push onto the counter, but the old woman behind it helps pull them up. I didn't see you come in. How long have you been here? The woman continues. On her breast pocket sits a name tag referring to her as the librarian, with just the name Chi-Chi handwritten underneath. Hi, Chi-Chi-san. Izuku sings songs up at her and grins a little bigger before pouting his lips in thought, swaying back and forth a little while Chi-Chi waits patiently. I've been here since school got out. Chi-Chi frowned. That's almost 3 hours, dear. Does your mother know where you are? Yes, ma'am. Izuku quickly brightens. I came straight from home. It wasn't uncommon to see the young boy at the library. In fact, it was more uncommon if he wasn't there at all. And he'd quickly won over the hearts of the staff within the first few days of his regular visit. It's baby Izuku. Anyone who doesn't fall in love with him, they must be killed. They are an enemy. Chi-Chi chuckles and nods. She trusted Midoriya Inko and her son not to do anything reckless, and begins looking through the books Izuku wanted to check out. The top few were comic books, of course, centering around All Might, and Chi-Chi's smile turned strange. Still stuttering to be a hero, I see. She begins slowly looking over at the little boy, who nods excitedly. She hated telling young children that they couldn't do with their future, but she also would hate to send them off with false hope. Well, good luck, and be careful, young man, she said, forcing some lightness into her voice. It doesn't seem to fool Izuku, however, and now it's his turn to strain a smile. He's a smart boy, smarter than Chi-Chi, and he can tell what she's thinking. Someone who is quirkless should avoid such dangerous lifestyles, no matter how brilliant. All he says, however, is a quiet, "Yes, ma'am." The next books are also expected, but no matter, send Chi-Chi and other librarians into a loop every time. Little Izuku, you don't want to get something to your age demographic? Midoriya Izuku was a boy of 5, soon to be 6 in a few days, and he was one of the smartest people Chi-Chi had ever known. Innocent, certainly, but smart. Izuku pouts immediately, no strained smiles with this. Those are all boring, though, he mumbles, ducking his head and hiding his face behind his curls. Chi-Chi sighs, but finally smiles and nods. Okay, dear, you know I always want to check, she says, and scans all the books into the computer before handing them over to the giddy boy. Izuku takes a second to adjust them in his small arms before grinning up at Chi-Chi. Thank you, Chi-Chi-san, he exclaims, a bit too loud for the library, but Chi-Chi lets it slide. He looks far too happy for her to try and silence him, and he walks out of the library with his comic books and 2 high school level books on maths and science. And 5 books on robotic engineering. Because, 5-year-olds, they're really into robotic engineering at that age. Izzy, sweetie, come and wash your hands before dinner. Izuku's head. One day I'll just be able to read. Izuku's head pops from where it had been buried in one of his books, the massive thing looking comical in his small grasp. He had run straight home after his stay at the library and hunkered down in his room. He had every intention of tinkering with a few of his little gadgets, which was really just a second desk covered in metal and tools. He had been enamored with one of his books when it had begun talking about shock-absorbing metals and how certain ones were crafted. If he could make his own, get his hands on some, he could make some sturdier gadgets. Izuku glanced at his workbench. Of course, he didn't really need sturdy for a bot that helped tie shoes or a glove that clipped your nails, because those were the ones he was working on. That didn't mean he couldn't start working on something that needed force. Izuku, oh. The young boy frantically looks for a bookmark, and when he doesn't find one, he rushes it out of his room. He sets it open on the table as he's hurrying to the sink to wash his hands. His mom looks up and sighs. At least he's not folding the page, because people who fold the pages of books are monsters. Izuku, you know the rule about books on the table, Inko warns, though she's smiling just a little. Izuku is scrubbing his little hand, standing on a stool to reach a sink, and nods a little abashedly. Yes, ma'am, but I couldn't find a bookmark, and it was a really good book. Do you think I should make a bookmark robot? That'd be really cool. I'll make you one too, and it can be purple because you like purple. And Inko steps over and sets her hands on Izuku's shoulders, smiling brightly and laughing. Izu, breathe. I think a little bookmark robot would be adorable, she says. I want a bookmark robot. I would stop losing my bookmarks, she says, and presses a kiss to her son's cheek that had him giggling. But first, dinner. Izuku finishes up and begins helping set the table. He needs to move the stepping stool over to the right cabinet first, and he pulls a lever on it to raise it. One of his own inventions. It cranks it again to lower it and head towards the table. He has to move the book to the couch, finally finding one of his All Might bookmarks on the coffee table, then finally hunkers down for food. A few minutes into dinner, Inko asks about school. and Izuku's trip to the nearby library, she decides to ask, "So, what's so interesting in that book of yours?" She loves to see how her son immediately brightens, almost as much as he would if he was asked about heroics, and Izuku loves that Inko asks at all. His mother is a lot more accepting of his love for electronics, not his love of heroes, but he isn't a fool. You can see the sad look in her eye when he talks about it. You can see she wants to protect him because he's quirkless. Can see it easily because nearly every adult treats him the same way, while the kids his age are just outright cruel. They're not cruel, they're complete and with science, however, Inko is more open and eager to encourage Izuku. It isn't perfect, but Izuku takes what he can. Do you know what polyurethane is? Izuku begins, his mouth stuffed with rice. Swallow Izuku, and no, I do not. Can I guess? Inko smiles as Izuku nods. She makes a show of thinking, humming and tapping her chin before offering, "Is it a chemical?" Izuku giggles and shakes his head. "No, it's a material that, well, they use it for shock-absorbing materials mostly. But there was this really cool one that was..." Words! What's worse is that it's science words. I can't science. It was a viscoelastic urethane that... Oh, but you just called it polyurethane. Now it's urethane? What's the difference? Urethane is just a simpler way of saying polyurethane, even though ethanol carbonate's also called urethane. Oh dear, that must be confusing. Not really. Tries hard not to laugh at Izuku's bright and blunt response. It reminded her of how young he really was, but how humorous that it was being applied to such an advanced topic. Anyway, viscoelastic means... They go on like this for a while, Izuku going into great depth about his research and how it works, and his new plans for his robots, and Inko listening as best she can, not understanding the majority of it. Me, when I was doing forensic science, I can't do chemistry. Just goes right over my head. But still so happy to see her her son excited and happy. Eventually, the conversation changes to Izuku's other research on heroes. He has a notebook he's been keeping on heroes and their quirks. Well, actually, now he has 3. 5 if you include the 2 thought of ideas on machines that can improve these heroes. He calls them support tools, and will always get an adorably disgruntled look on his face when he says he's surprised that no one else has tried to make some of these things before. Because, no one has the mind of a child. They're a lot more open to anything. They should just hire Izuku as a child, just like, what's wrong with these heroes? And just let him point out every little bit. It would have been great. Blah, 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 blah. Where am I? Here I am. While they were cleaning up after dinner, Ingo hums to get her son's attention. As he raises his stool and is leaning over the sink, scrubbing at the dishes, a long scrubber in hand with a spinning head, like a toothbrush. Yet another one of Izuku's inventions. Your birthday is coming up, Izu. What are you looking forward to getting? Inko asks. Izuku quickly looks up at her with big eyes before taking a breath and letting... Oh, there's a new All Might action figure that's coming out. That's limited edition, Mom. And that has a button you press and it goes, "I am here." Inko smacks her hand to her mouth to keep from laughing at her son's near perfect impression of the number 1 hero. And there's this new cool new All Might watch that Kachan got that I really, really want. It lights up blue and red and you can set different alarms and All Might talking. List of all kind of All Might related gifts, a few scientific kits sprinkled here and there, while Inko nods and smiles, thinking that this was a really good life she had here with her son. That's the perfect life. Izuku loved his birthday. The kids at school mostly left him alone, at least having the common decency not to treat him too bad on his special day. He got some awesome presents, usually All Might or hero related, a few science kits, a few gadgets, even a call from his dad. At least the last one was supposed to happen. Last year's unfortunately hadn't. And the year before, but Izuku held out hope. So yes, Izuku loved his birthday. This year was a tad more strange than usual. He found himself after school sitting on the floor of the Bakugo's living room while his mother sat and spoke with Bakugo Mitsuki on the couch nearby. Izuku was silent as he eyed his closest friend, who was just as silent, eyeing him back. Were they still friends? Izuku thought so, at least a little. More of a friend than anyone else in class, which even Izuku knew was a little sad. While in the past this had not been an uncommon occurrence, it now felt stilted and forced. Despite that, they found themselves on playdates every now and again, and while yes, they were more difficult now and made Izuku anxious at the time, it wasn't really that bad. Some days were even a little nice. When the other kids were around singing Katsuki's praise, Katsuki was cruel names and claiming things about Izuku that made him want to cry and lash out at the same time. No matter where they were, Izuku was Deku to Katsuki. But with all the other kids, that was something bad. He was a shitty nerd Deku. And really, where had he learned that language? But when they were alone, it was just Deku. Not friendly, but not cruel either. Izuku didn't know what that meant. He hoped it was something good, but really the best parts were these visits was that Katsuki would help him with some of his experiments. Katsuki didn't like anyone else knowing about that, and made Izuku swear never to say. But Izuku didn't really mind. Not when, in these fleeting moments, they were the best of friends again. Not when an experiment succeeded and they were both elated and happy. Even when something failed, it was awesome. It was either something simple and they both brainstormed together to find a solution, or it was a spectacular and they ended up laughing on the ground until they couldn't breathe. I brought something, Izuku says finally. I think you'll like it. His voice is low. Not yet his mutter, but close. Despite having so much fun during their experiments, the lead nerve-wracking, really. Katsuki crossed his little arms and glares, waiting before snapping. Well, what is it already? Izuku blinks before looking over to their mothers. Katsuki's, I'm a tough guy and I'm gonna sound tough, but I'm actually excited and impatient. Ah, little kids. They try and act tough, but they're not. I heard my little brother was once asked who does he think he is by my mom. He turned around and went, he said his complete full name and I'm just like, he's right. Yeah, you can't fault him with that. He's right. But he just said it so just like, I don't care. Yeah, I'm misbehaving. This is my name. This is who I am. Oh, who cares? It's adorable. Kids say the cutest and act the cutest. And then they get an attitude and you're just like, please stay away from me. Auntie, can we go in the backyard? He asks, instead of answering Katsuki directly, and Mitsuki looks over, smiling brightly. Of course, Izu-chan. Be good. She smiles, she says sweetly, and turns to her own son and says a little more hotly, don't you dare burn anything down this time. Katsuki looked immediately confronted and exclaims, what the hell? He could burn something down too, psycho. Why only me? Izuku tries not to laugh when Katsuki is ignored. The blonde growls and instead gets up and stomps towards his backyard, dragging Izuku. When they make it outside, Izuku plops on the ground and starts shuffling through his backpack while Katsuki stands with his arms crossed, glaring at him as he waits. He doesn't have to wait long, however, as Izuku pulls out 2 pairs of child-sized braces. They appear to be encircled by many canisters, not very large, each a different colour. He hands them to his friend. What the hell are these? Katsuki snaps, despite slipping on the braces and examining them. The canisters appear to be able to move around the wrist, one clicking into place with a tiny valve on each wrist that point directly at the boy's palms. Izuku is grinning excitedly, a slightly manic look in his eye that he gets when he's experimenting with his devices. When Katsuki looks at him, I'm going to call them firework flashes. Go ahead, pick a canister. Katsuki does so. He begins to move the canisters, the change, and decides to go with green on one hand and blue on the other. Okay, now flex your hand like this. Izuku shows his own hand and flexes his fingers backwards towards his towards himself, palm out. Katsuki does so. He's oddly accepting of being told what to do when it comes to these experiments. That was only because no one else was around, and only sometimes, the nerd came up with something that even he had to admit was cool. It was also helped that it was his birthday. Okay, now explosion. Katsuki makes both his palms explode and immediately turn a blue and into a blue and purple display. Katsuki blinks in surprise while Izuku whoops excitedly and grabs his notes. As nervous as Katsuki made him nowadays, nothing could keep him from getting excited over a good experiment. That's always good. Izuku writes down his observations while Katsuki follows with the canisters. He sets off 2 bright red explosions and begins to yellow, and he's beginning to cackle. Soon he's setting off a rainbow of explosions around him, laughing his own behind. They find out later that their mothers were filming them. Blackmail. That's all that is. That's blackmail for Katsuki. These moments are rare and far between nowadays for Izuku, where he and his maybe friend usually get to actually just be friends again, but they are always so wonderful and worth the wait. Izuku sat anxiously in front of the computer, staring hard at the video conference application and his father's name in the list of contacts. It was a short list. He had his own account, so had his mother, his father, his auntie and uncle Bakugo, Katsuki himself, a local computer gamer that was also happy to give Izuku programming tips, and one of their neighbors as an emergency contact. Inko stood off to the side, arms crossed. Izuku could see her expression in the reflection of the darker parts of the screen. He was worried, and the thing that worried him most was that she hardly had an expression at all. It was just void that she too stared at the screen. They had been like this the last 2 hours since returning home from the Bakugo household. Izuku patted his hands against the edge of the desk a few times, still staring. He was smart. He could piece things together. That did not necessarily mean he wanted to accept them. He thinks that maybe he had figured it out last year and had simply decided it to be an anomaly, a single incident, but now he isn't going to call, is he? He says suddenly, his voice quiet as he slowly lowers his head. He doesn't see if his mother's expression changes, but he hears her step a little closer. Hesitant. I wouldn't say, she begins, but seems to think better of herself before signing and trying again. She sounds sad too. No, sweetie, I don't think he is. That's all Izuku needs to hear for the floodgates to open. The affirmative from someone else, telling him his guess, and his fears are true. As the fat, ugly tears rolling, he hiccups loudly, and a soft whine escapes him. His tiny hands clutching at his shirt, not really knowing what to do with them. In a heartbeat, his mother is there, wrapping her arms around him, her own tears wetting his hair. The situation seems familiar. Izuku crying in the computer chair with his mother holding him tight, like she's holding him together. This time, however, her apologies don't feel like a nail in the coffin, like his world is beating him up with all the people he cares. This time it feels like someone really does care about him and will stay for him throughout all his pain and grief. He reaches up and hugs his mother right back, wheeling into her hair. As someone who doesn't, and the expectation that you're going to hear from them or see them, only to have them not show up, the amount of times I had to deal with that disappointment myself was ridiculous. It was stupid. And then again, the times I did get to see him weren't also the best. I mean, he went full on cheapskate with his 3 oldest kids, and it's got to a point where I'm very much like Izuku. I don't have a father in my life. I know he exists. I recognize that I have one, but honestly couldn't care less. That in the end, never gonna be there. But as a child, it is heartbreaking, and this fic definitely captures it in that moment. There is also another fic that is able to capture emotion beautifully. I'm going to ask if I can read that one as well, because I just love fics that try and get the emotion right. I mean, I try. I don't know if I always get it right, but every now and again I have reduced myself to tears writing, and I'm like, well, I cried. Let's see if this works. And just fics of emotion like this, especially when you can relate to a character and you know what that feeling is, it's sad. Yeah, so he reached. Hang on, next bit. Every time I stop to talk. A week later, a package in the mail arrives from Midori Hisashi. Izuku, when he slips out of his room for dinner, finds his mother glaring at it after she put on the kitchen table. I can't blame her. I probably would have burnt it. Izuku's mother only glares when something deserves it, and suddenly he is wary. She spots her son. When she spots her son, her expression softens some, but there's still an obvious edge to it. It's from your father, she says, and he looks at the postage. There's a long purge, and she adds, You don't have to open it. We can send it right back. Izuku wonders if that's what his mom wants to do, but Izuku is curious. He doesn't feel angry or upset or sad or happy. There's an... Oh, pardon me. That's why I get for eating cucumber. There is an odd, disjointed feeling towards the whole situation that he feels won't last long. But he may as well see what his father sent him. Yeah, it's like, after you've kind of had this thing, you're like, okay, well, I don't think he cares. And then just anything after that is kind of like, do you really mean this? Or are you just doing this out of obligation that you like, well, father, I'm going to at least try to show I am a good dad. It's kind of annoying. I hate parents that do that. It's like, if you feel like you're just going to get a gift for your kid that you don't particularly care about, just to try and keep up a image of an interested parent, it's stupid, and it's going to hurt more than just leaving will. After a while, they open the box and pull out what appears to be a camera. Izuku turns over the box and reads what features the camera has. His expression and feelings still not really present after a while. Inko staring at Izuku carefully, waiting for a response. The 6-year-old boy says, "Think he knows I could probably build this with a toaster." It's obviously not true. He would need plenty more components than a toaster has to offer, but it would still be easy. And besides, the surprise delight that comes from his mother, followed by her bright laughter finally has Izuku smiling and laughing as well. They set the camera by the front door. Izuku decides he'll sell it at a nearby pawn shop, and he was going to get a lot for his gadget parts. May as well put it to some kind of use. That's the best way to do it. Just sell it. Just, there you go. At least I got something decent from it. I can get stuff I like. Izuku takes the camera to the pawn shop the next Saturday. It isn't far, and he decides to browse a little. He has a little bit of birthday money with him, and he purchases a broken radio, a pair of walkie-talkies, and a Walkman. He doesn't have too many machines that have anything to do with audio, and he thinks he should give it a shot and challenge himself. If an issue logic himself out of or experiment a bit to find a solution, he can always run back to the library and grab a book on audio devices. That's the best way to work things out. Just read. You'll find something to help you. Or ask someone. The man that works at the pawn shop recognizes Izuku immediately, smiling big around a lollipop. It keeps him from craving a cigarette. The old man's smiling around the lollipop. That was a really weird image, a thing of like, wait a minute, Izuku? And checks Izuku out, giving the kid a family discount. He's a man of a few words, however, and soon Izuku is out and walking, purchases in his work backpack. It was made of leather, and he specifically uses it when he's going out getting supplies for his builds or bringing experiments around. Down the street is an art store. He goes in for scrap metal. It isn't actually sold there, but the owner is a sculptor that works heavily with metals. Anne had been a stroke of luck that Inko had met her while out getting groceries and had begged to know where a good place to get scrap was. Her son was the only thing on her mind. The location was a little far out for their liking, however, but the store was not. So every weekend, Izuku or Inko would drop by to grab a bag full of scrap metal from the woman. Inko tried to pay the sculptor, but the woman had simply shook her head and said it was worth helping a kid out with their dreams. As Izuku enters, he is almost spotted by a glowing pair of green eyes. He yelps. He can't help himself as the tall, burly woman comes rushing over. She's grinning brightly and wearing a tank top that shows off her elegant sleeve tattoos. Her pink cut hair cut short and her eyes still glowing a faint green. Izuku always thought she was, if not. Izuku bright and early, she says with a laugh. It always seems like the otter. Tatsume-san. You can guess who's gonna be in this. Izuku raises a sheepish hand in greeting. He should really be used to the woman by now. But it was difficult. She was just so much. "Aw, can't you call me Atto by now?" She pouts her thought, immediately brushing it off and turning around, already over it. Izuku was never sure if she was serious or not. "I have your scrap metal for you behind the counter." She sings songs as they walk through the aisles of the little art store. Apparently, it was actually Hatsume's husband's store, and this is how they originally met. But no one would have guessed with how she ran the place. "Oh, my sweet daughter is here. Do you want to say hi?" Izuku's eyes widened in sudden panic. Hatsume Mei was a terrifying little gremlin, and no one could convince Izuku otherwise. No one can convince me otherwise either, because I'm pretty sure you take one look at Hatsume like she was a gremlin when she was younger. I don't want to know the stuff she would have got up to when she was younger. God, I wonder how many places she would have blown up with experiments of her babies. By the way her mother was smirking back at him made him know that she knew that too. He shakes his head frantically for good measure. However, she laughs brightly. It turns out, in his opinion, doesn't really matter. However, as sitting on a stool at one under pink-head beast herself, scribbling frantically at a piece of paper in front of her. At their approach, she looks up, zeroes in on Izuku, and her eyes narrow darkly. Usually that look means something cruel. The kids at school shooted at him all the time, seeing him as worthless and nothing and pathetic. It was cruel, but he was used to it. It makes him sad, but he knows how to keep pushing onward. From me, it's not cruel, but it is absolutely terrifying. "My rival," she hisses viciously, and Izuku gulps, stepping back stepping away from her as he begins to shake. Suddenly, her arms shift and change as she zooms in on him and he gulps, shifting as if to cover himself, as if she has X-rayed vision instead of built-in binoculars. "Please stop," he mumbles, peeking up at her through his curls. Her eyes narrow a bit before she husks and goes back to whatever she's scribbling. "Fine, but only 'cause you said please, and Mama says that boys that says please is rare." Man, this fic really hits hard, May says, and her mother chortles loudly at that, nodding, calling her daughter a good girl as she brings the scrap metal to Izuku. "Fresh metal," she smiles brightly. "But not really, but who cares? What are you planning on building next, anyway?" At that question, Izuku noticed May peek up again. More discreet this time, but Izuku is too excited to care. "Well, I'm working on this little bot that is just a ring, but it can roll out into a bookmark since I keep losing mine. That'd be really helpful. And now I have some audio equipment, so I'm going to see what I can do with that." And I was thinking, Izuku is suddenly cut off as Otto's phone suddenly begins blasting an alarm. It is as loud and obnoxious as she is, and it seems fitting. But that suddenly concerned look on her face as she looks at her screen isn't. She looks round as if listening for something, and Izuku does the same. He isn't sure, but he thinks he can hear some kind of crash in the distance. Of what and how far, he doesn't know. Atto clasps her hands, getting his attention, speaking loudly enough for the store customers to hear as well. I'm sure you also just got one, but it looks like we have a villain alert in the area. Izuku suddenly pokes up, eyes widening as he steps closer. Wait, what? How many? What kind? Is a hero fighting them? He rattles off quickly. Don't know. Giant class, and yes. Answers the questions in order and begins to address everyone again, and beginning to look a little worried, which only made her more agitated. You read the notice, we're in the path, we gotta get out. Everyone make your way out and east towards. Suddenly a large bang makes the building shake violently, lights flickering, trying desperately to stay on, but ultimately failing. A few customers present shriek in surprise, May letting out a whimper and crawling off a stool. Shit, Atto curses under her breath, and now her tone turns more frantic. Everybody move. Get out now. You kids, come on. She looks back at her daughter, who nods jerkingly, and Izuku. Izuku is suddenly very... He numbly drops his work backpack and scrap metal when Hatsume tells him too dangerous to carry items in it around an emergency, and begins to follow her. Izuku adores heroes and their fights with villain. Every time he sees a crowd watching a fight from a distance, he feels he has to rush up to catch a glimpse, pulling out his notebook and muttering the whole while. But that had always been from a distance, from the outside. He had never been a part of a villain attack, or in one's path, as this one seemed to be. He didn't know which hero was fighting this apparent giant, but in this moment, he suddenly couldn't bring himself to care. His hands were shaking and tears were beginning to pool in his eyes. He was whimpering, but no one could hear it over the frantic voices filling the air. He had never heard such fearful voices from everyone, but certainly tough as nails Hatsume Atto. May was stumbling along as well. And when she looked back at him, he realized that he was terrified too. He was scared. Another bang and quake, so close and violent it made Izuku stumble, and only begin to cry harder. He was scared. He didn't want to be here. He wanted to be at home. He wanted his mom. The next crash makes the world shake, and suddenly pieces of the building are crumbling and tumbling and falling. The light swings down and explodes right in their path. He can hear Atto screaming from the other side of the wall of dust, but a falling piece of aisle stops them from getting back together. Izuku freezes for a moment, and then waits frantically at his face, dirt and tears smearing, and calls out for anyone, to come and get him, to get a hero to go, but more tumbling roars drown him out. Trembling roars drown him out. Maybe, if he stands still, they were able to find him, but that doesn't seem like a good idea. Clouds of debris are everywhere, and he can smell a fire somewhere. He hiccups and chokes on his tears, but forces himself to try and find a way out. Only when he turns, however, does he see May a few feet away, sitting on the ground, crying her eyes out, wheezing and sobbing, shaking just like Izuku. He hadn't realized she had been separated with him. The sight does something to the young boy, something he felt before when he jumped between some kid and Katsuki without thinking, and while he's still crying thick tears, he manages with a bit more ease to walk forward and extend his hand. Hey! Izuku had to raise his voice over the rumbling. Another crash and shake has both children squeezing their eyes closed and whimpering. But as it subsides, they look at each other. May blinks at Izuku as if first time seeing him, and he swallows. We can make it out together, but we have to be smart. You're smart, right? May's jaw clenches, as if even the most terrifying of circumstances, she must show off and defend her intellect. She nods. And I'm smart, so we're both smart. Together, we should be able to get out. May stares at him hard for a few moments, both of them terrified and shaking and crying, but both of them brilliant and stubborn as hell. And she reaches up to take his hand and stand. Okay, but you're still my rival. Eh, despite you're most likely both likely to die, you have to make sure he's aware that you're still his rival. The pink-haired girl says, her voice wobbling. They set off. Both of them are shaking and have been scared weak, but holding each other's hands, forcing themselves forward for each other's sakes, makes it a little easier. Each time the building shakes, they stop and scream, holding just a bit tighter, but are soon pushing forward, tears running down both of their faces. They hear what they assume is the as they both and see the street just out in front of the store. Atto is there being helped back by two civilians as she fights tooth and nail to get back to her. Go, she screams, and she must be loud because they can hear her over the crashing and rumbling. I have to get my kids. May is quick to yell out, letting go of Izuku's hand to sprint towards. Her terror being replaced by adrenaline and fueled by relief at the sight of her mother. Atto seems to free and quickly crouch when she's released to scoop May up, who isn't far behind, yelling out in relief as well. But Atto is not his mother. He is beyond relieved, but doesn't have the same boost as energy as May had, as well as just the natural speed as the girl. And when Atto looks up towards him, her eyes wide something Izuku can't see. She begins to scream, now frantic, but not even she can yell over the rolling wave of noise that hits, and a great titanic smash is heard above him. He is foolish and stops to look up, but he doubts he could have made it if he had kept running. And like in slow motion, the roof comes plummeting down towards Izuku, and all at once he feels everything and then nothing. The world gone black. Just that last sentence is just is it like a line separated from the rest of the bit? But oh my gosh, you can just imagine, you can feel the it must be just see something huge falling towards you, knowing that you would not be able to escape. It must have been a horrifying experience. Right, there's a little bit more. There's a little bit more. The world isn't full. It isn't right. It comes in and out in pieces. Black, then grey, then black again. There's a haze everywhere. World or in his head, he isn't sure. He moves, but can't. He thinks he should, but something is holding him down. He tries to blink some of the haze, but only works one side. But only one side works. The other is frozen or not there. He isn't sure. His legs feel tingly. Should they hurt? He tries to look down, but everything swims. Grey, red, black. The world is swimming. It's grey again. Shades of it. He can see a little, but it hurts. It's so... There's something beside him. Something big and grey and heavy. How does he know it's heavy? He tries to turn his head. Focus, focus, focus. Why does it hurt? His legs don't. There's a boulder beside him. He thinks it's a boulder. It came from the building. The bottom is red. Why is it red? He tries to look. He should have an arm there. He should have an arm where the boulder and the red start. The red, the blood. The pain then starts lacing through him. Something mangled and not right beneath the boulder. Though his face legs don't hurt. Izuku screams. He blacks out. He knows he did because nothing was moving a moment ago. Now the building above him shifts. Pieces of roof and metal and wall are moving like they're alive. The grey and the shadows are separate ways, are speared by rays of light. The pain is still there. It hurt, but hurts to scream. It feels kind of numb. And new shadow, building pieces, then another, and another. They look like people. Are they people? Izuku hopes they're people. Someone slides in. They clank when they move. That's weird. Izuku just stares, numb in body and mind. The clanking person hisses as if in pain, but then speaks. It sounds kind, the tone, but Izuku can't hear the words. There's a flashing light outside the building. He can pick up on them as more pieces are moved. A hand on his shoulder makes him look back to the clanking man. He tries to talk, but it's hard. Nothing comes out. Like when he cries so hard his throat closes up. Was he crying? He thinks he is, but there's only tears on one side of his face. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. It hurts. He somehow miraculously manages. His brain won't do what it tells it to, and some weird part of him finds to be the most frustrating part of the whole thing. At least he's beginning to see, to hear, to speak, to feel the pain. I know, buddy, says the clanking man, and Izuku was right. He has a very nice voice. Strong and confident, yet soft and kind and reassuring. You're being so brave, you know that, so brave, and we are going to get you out of here. The emotions just bubbling up on me. This bit brings me to tears so much. I don't know why. You're being so brave, you know that. So brave, and we're going to get you out of here. Just stares at him. He's beginning to make out the lines of what looks like a helmet. But something's wrong. It's almost like he can't quite tell how close he is. Something's wrong. And why can't he figure out what it is? More of the building is moving. I need you to be brave for me a little bit longer, okay? The clanking man continues. Can you do that? What's your name? No. Stranger, Izuku croaks, and some part of him tells him, later, we'll find it funny as well as worried about strangers, like his mum told him to be. The clanking man chuckles and moves to take his helmet off his helmet. Kind red eyes look back at Izuku now. Good kid, but I'm not a stranger. My name is Ingenium, and I'm a hero. Me and my team are going to help you. Ingenium, even in his blurry, creaking mind. Izuku is weak, tired, and scared, but hopeful. Nice to meet you, Izuku. Now, just stay. No, don't fall asleep. Stay awake, okay? Stay with me. Come on, Izuku. It's okay. Please don't fall. Izuku falls away from the world once more, wishing he could apologize for causing the frantic sound in the hero's voice. I forgot how emotionally tearing this chapter is. Maybe that's why I didn't read it. Oh my gosh. It's like, imagine it from Izuku's point of view. I mean, not that first. But imagine it from like an outside perspective first. Seeing a building crash on a 6-year-old. Just the idea wants to bring you to tears. But then you imagine it from the 6-year-old's perspective. It's like just a giant landing on you and not really understanding what's going on. It's just the idea of the fear. Oh, okay. I'm okay. I'm not gonna cry. I'll cry at some point. Watch it. This fic will bring me to tears at some point, but oh my gosh, it is just this fic is amazing, and I'm definitely going to read all of it. It's got 25 chapters, and they are pretty long, which I do love, but read them all. I mean, this is currently 50 minutes, and oh gosh, I love this fic so much, and I'm obviously the link will be below, so please check it out if you can. It is beautiful. on Tumblr too. Uh, if you just type in "if I only had a heart" on Tumblr, you should be able to find them. I have no idea if this video is capturing properly because while I'm recording, it keeps glitching, and I wouldn't be too surprised. But I'm gonna end it here because I need to go and read some Fluff. But that is the first chapter of "If I Only Had a Heart," and it's beautiful. It is really beautiful. I might try and do this weekly. I mean, I think the last one I posted was last week, but if not, I'm definitely gonna try and do one every day. That would be hell. I could probably read a few chapters in a day, though. If I can just get the chapters recorded and boom, that should be fun. My emotions are just so fucked from that chapter. Luna the Dragon, you did such a brilliant job with the first chapter. It just immediately pulls people in with the emotion, the fear, and leaving it on a cliffhanger. I mean, granted, leaving things on cliffhangers are so much fun. It's what I do all the time, and we must learn from the best of authors, Rick Riordan, because there's nothing quite like cliffhangers, and he's the best one at it. Well, in my opinion. Anyway, so if you have a fic you would like me to read and react to, comment below, send it to me on Discord, send it to me on Tumblr, send it to me on Twitter. The authors, if I can, if they say no, if I won't. I'm gonna end this before this glitches too much for me, so I'll see you guys all in the next video. This was emotional. So, see you guys in the next video. Bye.